Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to episode 251 of Freshly Grounded. Probably not the brother you were thinking of seeing, but we sound alike. We probably look alike as well. So, you know, I'll take the Faisal compliments. But Faisal's taking a much deserved break and taking a bit of rest, which is well deserved, and especially after everything you see for the last 250 episodes. You know, he needs to give himself a pat on the back and you know, a pillow to lay his head on for a minute. So I'm stepping in, and you will have some guest hosts for a few of these episodes. So I'm the first guest host, and I'm super excited to be here and to kick off this next, you know, whole chapter for Freshly Grounded. So, you know, I've been on that side of the chair before, but I've not been on this side. So this is going to be quite interesting. And we've got a very special guest. We've got Jabraan from Saffron Alley. He's a founder of Saffron Alley. For those of you who haven't heard about Saffron Alley, they're an incredible service where you can order fresh, high quality meat, halal meat. I'm a customer of theirs myself. That's how I discovered them. And then through that, I became friends with Jabraan and some of the people there. But you know, you guys will already know my you know, affection for food and my connection with it through The Guilty Chef as well. So this is something that I was super excited to do. And when Faisal and I were speaking about who we should have as a guest, Jabraan was a perfect fit because we just thought it'd be great to chop it up with someone who's also, you know, a like-minded person, you know, running companies, you know, super focused on efficiency and quality, but also around food, which makes it, you know, so much more fun as well. So let's get into it. This is episode 251 of Freshly Grounded.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast.
Well, it's not exactly brand new anymore, is it?
Welcome to Freshly Grounded, the podcast.
That's better.
Created by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded.
After that bit.
Created by
After that bit.
best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
We got back late yesterday.
Yeah, with family?
No, just wife. Went to see my brother-in-law.
Oh, nice. Where was that?
Bulgaria. Yeah.
Wow.
He's studying dentistry out there.
Oh, cool.
So we thought we'd just pay him a visit, and alhamdulillah, he's doing well. Beautiful country, man.
Yeah.
Recommend paying it a
What
visit.
did you guys do?
They've got a lot of history there. That part of Eastern Europe is really interesting because in terms of, like, you know, Islamic history, the Ottomans obviously got that far.
Right.
So there's relics and remnants of there's masjids there which are hundreds of years old, very beautiful.
Are you super into history and really?
Massively, yeah. Massively.
What kind of countries have you been to that you think have the biggest kind of Islamic historical background?
A lot of them, man. I think like, there's a standard ones, you know, obviously, like, you know,
Turkey, yeah.
all of, like, Northern Africa.
Everyone goes to the museum.
yeah. But what's really interesting is I went to Albania as well a couple of years ago.
Albania, wow.
Albania's sick. Honestly,
Right.
really recommend going. Everything's really cheap. So yeah, being able to do stuff, eat at nice places and everything is very accessible.
Did you see the comparison between the Nusret Steakhouse here and in Turkey? The fact that the same steak that here is like 300 quid or something, man. It's literally like 30 quid in Turkey.
It's mad. It's even the Turkey and the UAE one.
Yeah. You been to it?
I've been to the Turkey one.
Right.
My sister-in-law lives in UAE. We
Right.
got the same dishes.
Right.
Her bill was like 3 times the price.
Wow. That's probably because you're the supplier. Hiking the prices.
Right, yeah, it's quite interesting, actually. It's like in Saffron Alley, we get loads of wholesale inquiries, like 4 or 5 a day, like more than we can handle. And a lot of people are asking for steak. And one of the questions they ask us quite often is, what's the price of your steak? Tell them the price, and they're like, what? I'm getting it for like half the price. And I'm like, I don't know what you're getting for half the price, because obviously we have minimum standard, and there's the whole ethical piece. The animals have to be treated well and raised well, but also just the quality of the meat has to be good. Otherwise, I'm not comfortable. You know,
so your background in that, like with the quality side of things, and obviously because it's something that's operationally invisible, you know, and there's so many layers to anything. Time I think about meat, like if you really think about when it's, you know, in your plate and you think about where it's come from, you know, there's really a huge level of trust that goes in from a consumer's perspective. So even when you were kind of starting this out, was it, you know, a massive part of it connected with like your own experiences in getting me or ordering me, or if there's anything like that? Like, where did it come from for you to be there? Because it's operationally complex. You know, it's a big challenge. There's a massive brand part of it, which is why I connected with you guys. Because I love the fact, and I told you before, that the name I love, and, you know, the way the brand is presented I love, and, you know, the way you even did your customer experience experience was beautiful. So obviously you've thought through all those things. So where did that come from? Where did it stem from? Because there's so many ways it can go wrong with meat, can't it?
Which is Jazakallah for the kind words. It took a lot of planning. It doesn't come from experience. I think it comes from a place of ignorance, actually, because we have an idea, or my brothers and I, who also help run the business, we have an idea that Muslims deserve a set standard. We don't deserve like a substandard, especially in the area of food. The way you buy meat hasn't changed in 30 years, 40 years, and it's like nothing. There's been no modernization or convenience built into the system. So we're like, how do we make this better? What are the things that need to be made better? What are the common problems and issues that Muslims face when they're trying to buy meat? And one of these is convenience. You always have to go somewhere. You go somewhere and typically the shop's a bit stinky. Or a complaint we hear from women a lot is they don't feel comfortable. The butchers don't speak English. You have to speak in like Urdu, Punjabi, and it's a big problem if you're not Pakistani or Indian, right? So that was one set of problems, and then there's the whole freshness side. Don't really know where the meat's coming from, how long it's been in the butcher shop, and then there's the whole transparency, and then the whole ethical piece. How are the animals treated? Where is it coming from? When were they slaughtered? You just don't know any of this stuff.
Man, it's crazy. And this pet peeve you're speaking about, I'll share with my friends as well, that when I go to certain meat shops, they're cutting the meat, prepping the meat with their gloves, fine, and then they're putting the meat in the bag, and then they're doubling it up with another bag, but then they're handing it over to me with the same gloves they've just cut the meat with. And I always watch that, and it happens everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, you just give me, I've probably got remnants of meat on there, and I'm not picking up. I've got my kids with me, probably holding their hand. Just thinking you're passing along these germs. And that was actually one of the reasons that I get frustrated with that experience. And because nothing else like it existed, and the other thing is, of course, speed, because normally, you need meat immediately, or when you want to, especially when you're kind of a family now, you're not always planning your meals that far ahead. So on the day, you're like, all right, cool, we should cook this tonight. Or you try to figure out based on your time. And then, not being able to get it, you just have to go to a meat shop and deal with that stuff. So I think what you're saying is important. And now finding ways of solving that over time, I think people will appreciate that, because you're literally doing the thing that you should do, in selling your product is really highlighting the benefits and the pain points. Definitely. And where so now when you speak about the quality and stuff like that, did you start first of all being inquisitive into how meat shops are run and what's going on? Did you do a bit of kind of digging deep to figure out, okay, how big is this problem, or was it just saying from that naive point of view of just it feels like it's going to work and we should do it?
It was a combination of a lot of things. There was a little bit of reverse engineering going. Just to give you a bit of background, I was actually a geologist. Did oil and gas exploration prior
Hold on a second. You were a geologist and now you sell meat on the internet.
That's right. Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. So first of all, okay. Explain the geologist bit. So what were you doing as a geologist? What even is a geologist?
The geology is someone who studies the Earth and planets as well.
That makes sense with your history stuff now. Okay, I understand Bulgaria better now.
But I don't know why. I think, long story short, I took it at GCSE, geology as a subject, because I thought it'd be a DOS, easy to get really good grades in.
Man, what school did you go to have geology? Have you had geology at GCSE?
I was fortunate, but it was. I thought it'd be a DOS. I just literally ended up falling in love with it.
Really?
And
wow.
Ended up doing a degree in it. Also did a PhD in it. Did a postdoctorate in it. And my specialty, my focus in my PhD was oil and gas exploration in the UK. And
so can you shed some light on this whole situation for us going on right now?
Now
I stand in these queues guys, I know all about it.
It's so funny,
lecturing people.
When you remove yourself from an area of expertise, things change so quickly. But I can only just parrot the things going on in the news. I think there's enough supply. It's just HDV.
What do you think about the? It's super conspiracy. Let's get into it. People saying that during COVID people weren't driving, and therefore petrol has expiration date. Yeah, you seen that?
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I'm obviously such a meme guy, and therefore people now the petrol companies have to get rid of the excess fuel that's been lying around, and so they've created this shortage. Do you think this type of stuff is just bonkers, or based on what you just said, as geology, it makes sense?
It's just bonkers. It's just a driver shortage. Yeah. We see it in the meat industry as well. Yeah. You see it in every industry. So we ship direct to customers' doorstep using couriers, right? Next day courier. all of the couriers we work with are all having delays because they don't have drivers because of Brexit. So it is just an issue of getting fuel to the fuel stations, and people being irresponsible by filling up bin liners with
Too
fuel.
much. Oh man, yeah, bin liners. People doing that.
That's what bin liners, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? I actually saw something super cheeky. I was like in a queue for man, honestly, 2 hours. Yeah, down the road. And then I got there, and then there's a woman behind me in a car, and she had a friend with her.
Yeah.
The woman starts filling up her car, and it's £35 limit. So she fills up her car. Her friend gets out, stands behind the car, as if she's in a queue now, waits for a friend to finish up fueling up. Then she gets in there with a jerry can, fuels up, another 35 quid. And then they drive down, and then she pours a jerry can into there as well to get £70 worth of petrol out.
Yeah.
Like I was watching this happen as I'm putting in petrol. And like, this is the first time I had to get petrol during this whole situation. And it was just, man, the levels of but bin bag is...
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's really interesting. Like, alhamdulillah, I've been very fortunate to travel a lot, and you always have this conception that, you know, we live in the UK, like this is our lifestyle, it's really good, and blah, blah, blah. And then you go to like third world or other countries less developed, and like, you know, everything's a bit more chaotic. And personally, I love the chaotic. I don't like order. I love things just being a bit more free. But you know, as soon as like you have a pinch or there's an element of panic or something, people just go crazy.
They do, don't they?
Yeah.
But I think the internet doesn't help, obviously. Yeah, people get like that. It's probably just a mentality or that kind of, that like, it's a toilet roll situation as well, isn't it? It's just these crazy moments.
It's mad.
So where does that thing about you kind of not liking chaos and wanting things to be more free, does that come from something like in your childhood? Are you naturally curious in that way? Like,
going deep.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to know, because I'm like, what makes you enjoy that space?
I do reflect on like upbringing and why am I the way I am, etc. I think my current explanation for this, and has been my explanation for a while, is that I'm the youngest of four, so perhaps as wanting to stand out, and you know, my siblings, alhamdulillah, they're all pretty high achievers, so as well as like having to get good grades at school, like, you know, I'd naturally want to be different just to be noticed or whatever. So
it's great that you can recognize about yourself first of all, because people aren't self-aware enough to recognize that even as a, you know, the younger child, that you have these traits.
Yeah. So I think from that, like, I have this, you could call it a complex. I like things to be different. Sometimes different for the sake of being different. And I think chaos, perhaps just because it's different to what we're used to here in the West, just things not being ordered. And who likes rules as well, man? Rules are boring. They just prohibit you doing things or thinking a certain way or moving.
It's convenient, isn't it? Yeah. No, but it's true though, because even, you know, just as a society, man, it's so much easier just to be told what to do and to just follow that kind of, you know, kind of blindly follow that roadmap that's set of like the societal structures. And as soon as you do just take a step aside and you just look at them from an outside point of view, like, hold on a second, that doesn't make sense. And we don't do enough things in life that you just look at and be like, that doesn't make sense. We just accept that things are the way they are, and they must make sense because they're there. But you know, a lot of things exist just because people put them together, and sometimes I don't even know why they even put them together. You know, and a good way of thinking about this, and I'm coming on to kind of what you were saying about how you're looking at, you know, yourselves from product angle, and even how we think of product as well, is there was an interesting interview with Elon Musk a couple of months ago, and he was speaking about within any of his organizations, in SpaceX or Tesla, when there's an idea that needs to come into fruition. So let's say someone says, you know what, we need to add, you know, metal spikes on the wing, you know, something like that. And it's like, okay, cool, great. That person vouched for it. The idea got to a point where it was approved. Now, let's say, for example, the rocket's made and it's got these spikes on it. They then have to re-question everything. But at all times, the person who had the idea either has to be in the process or in the company, or if it's handed off to someone, that new person needs to believe in it too. Effectively saying that someone also always needs to be there that believes in the change, that believes in the idea. It can't just be a series of kind of, you know, people just saying, oh, this should be done, and then someone taking it over and saying, yeah, they said it should be done, so it should be done. And in society, it's a bit like this. Like, we just inherit ideas and we just continue to go with them. And we're like, okay, well, this is just how it is. And then people just say, because he said it. But where it comes in and building stuff like Saffron Alley is like taking a kind of a zoomed out perspective and saying, hold on, where did it come from? Who said this is how the meat industry should be, you know? Exactly. And then listening to kind of the customers and that kind of user approach, which again is so no, I mean, it's common sense, but it's not done enough. Looking at, what are people actually saying and feeling. And especially now, it hasn't been reformed with the amount of access to technology we have.
Yeah.
Things like Deliveroo, Uber Eats, it's so common now. A lot of meat shops are on Deliveroo now as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
So how do you think about that space? Like in terms of, you guys are scaling out and growing what you're growing, is there a potential to do that? Like partnering more? Do you take it down more of a partnership angle, or do you figure out how to make Saffron Alley more of a kind of standout brand in high streets and things like that? Is there an angle there?
So just to touch upon something you mentioned earlier, I think because we had no knowledge of the meat industry, and we came into the sector, we were able to be like, okay, like we were able to design a company product service that is not in the norm, right? Had we had knowledge of the industry and sector, we'd probably be just like anyone else. So I think it can be real advantage being naive going into an industry sector, because it gives you an edge almost.
Well, you almost have that first principle thinking, don't you? You just apply it straight from like, look, you're not plagued by all the kind of the prerequisites of what people might have thought about. You're just like, okay, you know what? This is like,
I want to do this. Yeah. How do I do it?
Yeah.
Whereas people already in the system are like, I'm already doing this. How do I pivot or transition into that? That's actually,
and it depends
harder.
it depends on your resistance to change as well. Like what, and like someone like you, like you're saying, you want change, you want things to be different, and so you actually lean on that more.
Yeah.
Where some people are more risk averse, you're pushing on that side of yourself because in fact that's where you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
So if it's not disruptive, it's not worth doing almost.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think something that annoys me is if you see a successful Muslim business and it could just be a chicken shop on a road, right? 3 years later, there's about 6 chicken shops on that road. It's like, come on, we're better than this.
Same blue, white, and red logo.
Yeah, like we're better than this. Like we should be innovating. We should be creating new things, right? And we should be benefiting our Ummah and society and in new ways. And so it has to be innovative. And obviously creating this company, I have a passion for food and cooking and meat, and that's a big portion of why Saffron Alley exists. But at the end of the day, if I'm not creating, adding value to the Muslim consumer, there's no point doing what I'm doing. If I'm the same as everyone else, my time is better spent doing something else, right? Offering something new. I mean, that's what businesses are. They live and they thrive because they're providing a product or a service.
It kind of gives you oxygen, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Have you? So you launched this year or last year?
About 18 months ago.
18 months ago. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then what has the trajectory felt like over the last year? Like, has it felt kind of this gradual increase, or were there moments that I was just like, okay, this is really pushing in the right direction? Like, how does that work from standpoint you come from? Because you're literally having to change. It seems like an obvious thing that people want, and once they become privy to it, they're like, okay, that makes sense to us. But then still, it's a real cultural shift, man, because naturally, for all the reason that people are concerned with going to meat shops and have their pet peeves there, naturally they might feel like, how do I know it's coming to me safely? How's it not going to get damaged in transit? How's it not going to be bad by the time it gets to me? How do I look after all of these things? So how do you adjust for that change, and then how have you seen the growth based on that kind of education to the consumer? Yeah,
it's tricky. I think even in non-halal, Tesco, Sainsbury's, home delivery of groceries, they struggle. They're capped at prior to COVID, they were capped at like 16% of the groceries that they sell. COVID has brought them above 20%.
Like meat wise, or everything?
Everything.
Right.
People are just apprehensive when it comes to food and grocery, and obviously meat especially.
Do you think it's cost related, or just the fact that people, it's just something that they want to see? They think that they're going to sell me, give me the earlier sell by date bread, like that. Is that type of concept?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I think, and that's why one of the reasons why medium like Instagram, for example, has been really good for us, because people get to see what happens when you order from Saffron Alley. People make stories, posts like, okay, this is how it works, and we'd obviously do that on our website, but having the third-party validation is very powerful, right? So I think what we've realized is, in terms of our growth, is there's been steps. So started few people ordering, word spreads, you kind of jump up a step. Ours hasn't been linear. I wouldn't say it's been exponential. It's literally just been jumps, and then managing the jumps has been fun.
So what's been what do you think? What would you put as the biggest highlights of managing the jumps? Things that completely caught you off guard.
Christmas last year was mental.
Turkey squad.
Turkey was ridiculous. Basically, it coincided with lockdown 3 or whatever that was in December, and also Brexit. And so for a lot of our meats, actually, we find that the UK is not always the best place to source chicken from. In terms of the rearing standards, in terms of us being able to guarantee that farmers aren't using antibiotics.
What were
hormones.
rearing standards? Is that how they're looked after?
Yeah. So basically, when it comes to chicken, it's okay. So
Sorry, Jabraan, can you just move your mic a bit closer?
yeah, so it's complicated, and it's not that complicated. We'll say like you have caged chicken, you have barn reared chicken, then you have like free range chicken, then you have organic chicken. That's the hierarchy. We would love to be able to sell free range and organic chicken to all Muslim consumers, but this is just really costly. You're talking like 14 to 19 pounds per chicken, right? And we eat so much chicken, a lot of Muslim consumers just aren't used to that. So what we've done is we've found a selection of barns in Europe which are humongous, and the chickens have loads of space to roam in them. The barns that we're aware of in the UK, the halal barns, the chickens are, there's like, they're given about 1/2 meter squared each to roam around in. And this is a problem because when chickens and animals can't move, they have really poor immune systems, and then that means that sometimes they're given antibiotics to kind of make sure they're healthy. And again, if they're not moving, their bones are brittle and they're not very strong. So you'll see this, like sometimes you'll buy chicken from wherever, halal chicken, and the leg might snap in your hand, or it might just break quite easily when you're preparing it. Whereas you take like the bones from, say, some of our chickens or the organic chicken, like, we have to sharpen our knives like all the time when butchering chicken because the bones are so sturdy.
Wow. So I mean, how does it change your experience with shopping at regular meat, like with regular meat at regular stores? Like, how do you feel about that now? Like, when you go there, are you just able to? I mean, you're speaking to something with us before about water retention with chicken, weren't you? And so, are you so like aware of these things now just by looking at a piece of meat? That do you feel like you can just tell now?
Most of the time. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky. Things like water injection. So, from EU law and UK law, when you're transporting meat, especially poultry, long distances, you are allowed to inject water into them. Reason being is that when you refrigerate something, cold environments are dehydrating, so they pull water out of the chicken. So, you might end up with 100 kilograms of chicken when you start off in the truck, but then you've transported it, 100 miles. And it's lost, like a couple of kilos. So then that's unfair for the sellers. So that's why they allow them to kind of inject a little.
Which makes it account for it. Yeah.
Exactly, just to keep things kind of level and stable. There's been loads of scandals with halal meat and what they've been injecting into we won't go there, but Google it if anyone's interested. But also, what some producers do is they abuse this, and they end up putting more than 10%.
Right, so they can kind of sell it for get more kind of
they can
yield,
just charge more. Yeah. So this is a big problem. If they're doing 5%, it's actually quite difficult to tell. But if they're doing 10%, something like a chicken breast, it will be very bulbous. It will look weird. It'll have a weird pink color to it. You'll cook it and it will shrink to like half its size.
How do you test for that though? How do the people that are transporting it test for that?
So
is that where you have the committees and stuff like that who deal with that?
Yeah, they do like random spot checks.
Okay, fine.
It is regulated, but it probably could be. Well, it should be regulated more and inspected more because this problem is quite prevalent. And the lower quality the meat, the more likely that they are, finding ways to get around this 5% thing and putting more in.
You know, in like it's a store cash and carry, and then they sell everything, and then they got a meat shop at the back. But then also just whenever I go into a store, it seems like there's so much meat. Yeah, like I went into one the other day, and there was just honestly just meat upon meat just sitting in the fridge, and it was confusing, man. Because I was like, this doesn't even look hygienic. Yeah. I don't know how we're doing this. And then on top of that abundance. Where and there's not that many customers, you start thinking like, how much this are you really selling? Yeah. And then you try and look at the integrity of the person selling it to you, and you're like, do I trust you? I feel like this because I'm so like aware of my own emotional triggers when making purchases. So when I go there, I'm thinking about these things, and then I bought the meat, cooked it, and alhamdulillah, we're okay, but still I do think to myself, like, what's going on here? Like, how is it that you got so much supply? And then what I would think is with certain people and their integrity, like, you can't trust everyone's intentions. Like, if they got meat sitting there, would they throw it, or would they just try to sell it back to you? You know what I mean? And I literally think about those things, and normally in stores like that where there's so much of it, and it's like, all kind of looks the same, you know. So it tend to be a thing where it's like these people just go to like this one kind of quote unquote supplier to get the staff that just this kind of batch model that people roll out, just have a meat shop. There are very few people that actually have like their own standards of like meat manufacturing and everything as well.
I think one of the problems in the halal meat industry is there's no like there's a couple of larger players, but there's no like really big players. It's made of a lot of small companies doing their own kind of thing.
Yep.
So there's no system. Everyone's got their own kind of standards. And so every butcher shop or every restaurant, every abattoir has a completely different system. So it's kind of hard to generalize. You know, your average butcher shop will have 2 delivery days, like a Tuesday and a Thursday or a Friday or something like that, right? And then all of their intake comes in on those 2 days. But then in all the days in between, you know, you don't know how long meat's been sitting in the fridge for. The ones that I've seen, and I've been really fussy, like growing up, when buying meat and lambs and chicken and stuff, we do really big barbecues. We'd like roast a whole lamb, and then obviously we wouldn't have a big enough big enough fridge to hold a lamb. So what we do is we'd get a lamb, take it home, marinate it as a whole lamb, and then take it back to the butcher shop, and then, you know, say, can you just leave this in your fridge to marinate for like 2 days? We'll take it back. We're going to do a spit roast or something.
Wow. Oh,
But in doing that, you see like the conditions of their fridges and things like that, and you're like a bit like, ugh.
Yeah, man, because I just think it's so important to have these honest conversations about these things, because, you know, we're especially, you know, Islamically, you know, cleanliness is a central part of the deen, you know, and for things to be pure and to be well looked after, you know, and then also to have that kind of, you know, honesty amongst, you know, our people we're buying from. And in fact, the khutbah on Friday at the Jummah I went to was actually about being a businessman and buying and selling, you know, and knowing your duties and explaining the fact there's literally a duty upon you. You're in a position now of great responsibility from both a buying and selling point of view. So you've got to make sure that you're preparing whatever you're doing for the person that's buying it and making sure that they're getting something honest. And this is kind of along those lines, because I think sometimes we just want to assume the best, which is an amazing thing to do, and we should be like that as Muslims. But when it comes down to your food and what you're consuming, you know, in this day and age with so much information and companies like you now who have actually created this company off the back of seeing what you're seeing, you know, and it's still, you know, the majority of meat out there is just produced the way we were just speaking about. So I just feel like what you're doing is so important, and we need just a bigger push on that. Do you find resistance in the market when you're trying to come out there because of how things have been, or are you like optimistic about this kind of the new Muslim household, like kind of our age people kind of taking this on as a new way, or right now, and you think the old kind of way of going to a butcher shop and having that experience will either, you know, die out, or just, you know, you'll hopefully inform it better? Like what are you predicting there?
Yeah, I think it's important we don't tarnish everyone with the same brush. There are people doing things responsibly and doing them well out there. It's not like, you know, I don't want to be like scaremongering and be like everyone's like this, but there are, you know, we've all seen it. There's you know, there are shops out there that like that are doing things we wish were to a higher standard. I think the challenge with the older generation is, you know, they've been buying meat for 30 years, 20 years, 40 years. They're pretty happy with the way that they do things and the way things are. And, you know, they don't necessarily look for change. If they were to transact with a company like us, it would probably be like a one-off experience. They want a specialist cut of meat. So that's another thing that we do, as well as doing, you know, like diced lamb, diced chicken for curry, rice, biryani dishes. Obviously, we do like racks of lamb, loads of different types of beef steak, beef roasting joints, and all that kind of thing. So they might come to us for those type of cuts. But we do see that, you know, we're building ourselves for, you know, I'd like to say our generation, or the younger generation, who are coming up and slowly becoming or quickly becoming the main meat buyers, halal meat buyers. And we have very different requirements from the old generation. So, you know, less and less are we living in households of 20, right? Smaller fridges, smaller freezers. People want to buy meat more regularly. They don't want to buy 300 pounds worth of meat and freeze it for like 6 months.
I was just saying that,
So the attitudes and buying habits are changing. And again, that's exactly what we're set up to do.
I think it's because we're in a just mindset of things being quicker. You know, we're so used to convenience. It's literally the way our minds are framed now, aren't they? And so the idea of kind of leaving meat, you know, to defrost throughout the whole day. Like when I speak to my in-laws or my mum about prepping food, and you know, so often they'll take some meat out of the freezer, they'll defrost it, and then you know, they'll prep. And I'm thinking like, this is such a a thought out process, you know, which is amazing because it works for them. But when I've tried to do it, even if I've got time, I'm like, man, I just want to feel spontaneous. Like, okay, what's there? What can I use right now? And then just like figure it out and just whip something together, you know. But the idea of being like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to think about this recipe for 12 hours before I cook it.
Literally,
it's like mental torture for me. So I'm just staring at the chicken and be like, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet?
It's a much faster pace of life now. I think, you know, we don't know what we're doing until half an hour before we're doing it.
Yeah.
Right. The amount of times I pulled like steaks out of the freezer or the fridge and be like, okay, we're going to cook these today. And then someone calls and like, oh, we're going out for dinner or whatever. Plans change. And so attitudes change.
What's your go-to steak?
My go-to is a ribeye.
Ribeye.
Favorite one, yeah.
Man, that's quite rare. I mean, people don't normally say ribeye.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of Muslims don't know the different cuts of steak, and they probably haven't tried them.
Take us on a steak journey. Go on. what are the obvious things we need to know about?
Yeah, so it's a question we get asked a lot, right? So I'd say they're the fancy steaks like T-bone and
Wagyu.
You know, and there's Wagyu and porterhouse and all this. Like, just put them to the side one sec, right?
Fine.
So your four main steaks are your fillet steak, your fillet steak, and your ribeye, sirloin, and rump, right? So they're your main ones, staples. And the way I like to explain them all is each one's like a compromise. Each one's like good at one thing, but not so great in another department. So you take rump steak, for example, big on flavor, but it's a little bit chewy. So we sell rump steaks as quite thin steaks because it's a bit chewy. You don't want a thick slab of meat that you have to chew for ages. So if it's thinner, it just makes it easier to chew and eat. So we sell rump steaks just think they're about 240 grams ish. Find that's a good size. You don't really want them any thicker. Then you have something like the fillet steak. So fillet steak is the most expensive because there's the least amount of it in a cow. Fillet steak tends to be the most soft piece of meat in the entire cow. That's why it's really expensive as well. You can literally, a good fillet steak, you should be able to cut through it with a spoon, like very soft, very tender. However, although it's very soft, it's not very juicy, and it doesn't have the greatest amount of that beefy flavor. So that's the kind of compromise you have to make with a fillet steak. A ribeye is probably the juiciest and the most flavorful of all the steaks. It's also quite fatty, but it has a little bit of bite and a little bit of chew in it. And then finally, there's the sirloin steak, and you can just think of that as an all-rounder. So if you're not sure, if you're confused, I would just go with sirloin.
Sirloin tends to be the main one that people go to, right?
Yeah. Most popular one. It's like a good compromise of everything.
Yeah. So there is room for a fifth steak that would be, you know, the money grabber. Yeah.
Money grabber. Oh, there's loads of other ones. So you have like a tomahawk steak.
Yo, when you get 4 hours in this, man, start Googling. We just have to figure out how to make this fifth steak.
You know,
go find a really good cow, man.
So because we've been stuck with all these main steaks for like decades and decades, in America, they actually funded a study. They spent like tens of millions on this study, and they basically got butchers to just butcher cows in different ways in order to find a new steak.
In America, you said?
In America, yeah. And what they came up with...
These guys come up with any experiment, don't they? Just like, what did you feel like experimenting today?
We got some money. Here you go do something.
Go find some cows.
Yeah.
Right.
But basically, they came up with a steak. I think it's called a Denver steak, but... it's from the chuck in a cow, which is like the neck part, so like back here. Traditionally, it's quite a tough cut, but there's one muscle in there which is very tender. So millions and millions of pounds of taxpayers' money found that steak, and that's quite popular as well. So.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Chuck now good. It's very popular in burgers, isn't it?
Yeah,
burger blends.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go into restaurants and you see that big picture of a cow, let me ask you all you boys. You go to the picture, you see a big picture of a cow with all the cuts in it when you're in a shop. You're buying your meat, a burger, and you just show you the dissected cow with all the labels. Do you find that appealing or not? Does it turn you off the food?
It's the environment, isn't it?
I think it's just an aesthetic. I don't actually look at it and say, okay, what part do I want to eat?
Yeah.
It's just there to show it's a steakhouse. You don't really think I want to eat this part
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
cow. It's more about the.
Because when I see it, I start visualizing too much. Like I'm too connected to the source now.
Yeah.
Feel a bit bad though.
Yeah, it's a bit bad. Yeah, they're getting on a guilt trip.
Yeah.
I'm not sure our latest content will be too appealing to you then.
Okay.
We want to do some like live butchery.
Yours not a restaurant. You're supposed to do that.
Yeah,
You're the place that we should see it, where you can actually understand what you're buying. I'm saying, when you actually go into, you're about to eat this juicy burger, nice and hot.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at its like shoulder.
What I find quite annoying though is like when you go to a normal butcher shop or even a restaurant, like they've got that picture of the cow. There's probably 20 cuts on there. They've got like 2 of them. Or in a butcher shop, they've got 1. It's like beef knuckle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, why are you
Man,
selling
I never
beef
found
knuckle?
Brisket. Like, I've started to see brisket in a few places now.
Yeah,
But I love slow cooked brisket, man.
it's a good dish. Yeah.
That and a sandwich.
Well, we got it if you ever
homemade
need it.
coleslaw.
So.
Man, you know what? I love your stuff. Pepperoni, winner of my household. I got the Saffron Alley pepperoni once, so
Nice.
everyone sell it out, and you need to stock up because everyone's gonna buy it now. You need to get this pepperoni, man. It's so good. I need to get some more as well. Because pepperoni is hard to find good pepperoni. We all know the standard ones you can get in meat shops.
Yeah.
But when you've eaten good pepperoni in like even places like Dubai and abroad, you know what tastes good. Because it has a meaty taste.
Yeah.
And you can taste the fat and you can taste the whole thing. And so, and you can always tell the way it cooks as well. You know when it's good quality pepperoni. So I got the Saffron Alley one, and then I actually got we got a Domino's pizza, and then because in Blackburn, where my wife is from, they do the most like amazing, just like junk food, right?
Yeah,
so they have pizzas with like doner on them,
Crazy,
with chili
yeah.
sauce, garlic sauce. And so we wanted a pizza like that. So we got Domino's, chili sauce, garlic sauce, pepperoni from Saffron Alley, and it was amazing, man. So now, like when we know we're about to have a binge night, we're like, we need to get pepperoni in. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, again, like with the deli meats, it's something we've gone the extra mile in. So we do all these checks with the farmers, with abattoirs to make sure animals are being raised a certain
What's an
way.
abattoir?
Abattoirs where animals go to be slaughtered.
Okay.
So in the UK, you can't, unless you're like slaughtering 1 or 2, there are exemptions.
Right.
But if you're doing it on some sort of commercial scale, animals have to be slaughtered at an abattoir.
Okay.
And at the abattoir, they have all these checks to make sure animals are being treated well. Obviously, slaughter in terms of hygiene and things, certain conditions need to be met. So it's a regulated place where slaughter can happen. So we speak very frequently to all the abattoirs, to farmers, to make sure the animals are being treated well, slaughtered according to Islamic principles. Also, additionally, we speak to the certifying bodies, which are certifying halal slaughter at these abattoirs. So we have all those checks. And then, again, when it comes to deli meats, pepperoni, beef bacon, pastrami, all those kind of things, the things we see out in the halal market at the moment, we weren't really happy with. So again, those are areas where we've gone the extra mile. That pepperoni you speak about, that's produced for us by artisanal like deli makers in Italy. So these guys produce, obviously, I'm not sure if people are aware, but Italians are really big on sliced meat. All their sandwiches and things like that have all these fancy cuts that have been cured and done in a special way. And a lot of them, you haven't been able to get halal versions or varieties before. So we, made connections with.
They call them ensalate, right? Is it ensalate they call it? The kind of the beginning of the meal where you have all these cuts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like these cold cuts.
Yeah.
You might have some cheese. You might have some.
Yeah.
So these guys that are traditionally producing Italian sliced meats, we've also gotten them to make a dedicated halal range for us.
So is that process, for example, is that you saying, look, like kind of being like, we need this type of product and going out and making it happen?
Yeah.
So is that what you find is unique about what you guys do as well? Like you're so invested in it from the product line perspective as well, like what you actually need to bring out and then finding ways of doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, literally, yeah. So you can't do all of it yourself. Half these people don't even speak English.
Course,
so you get
Yeah.
contact, you get connections out there, and they help you with the process. But we're very strict with our requirements. We like this product, but it's probably a bit too salty. Change this, change that. Too much preservatives in this. I don't care if it has less shelf life. we have concerns about really really high levels of preservatives in the
Yeah,
deli
yeah,
meats as
yeah,
well.
of
So
course.
so that's another thing that we look
Well, I
into.
mean, that's a good thing with what you guys doing is like when you're a supermarket or you have to the shelf life is such an important part of your business model and
massive.
economics, isn't it? And the amount of time they're transporting before it gets to the consumer's fridge. So you've got to account for all that, otherwise it's wasted money.
Yeah.
And with you guys, you're direct to consumer, so it's right there. So what are ways that what are the kind of things that you're most excited about? Kind of things that are maybe in the pipeline that you're really excited to roll out to consumers, like you're just speaking about your new way of explaining to them the meat cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that something new? Are you renovating parts of your platform for them? Is there new product lines that people should be excited about as well?
Yeah, so we have, in terms of product lines, sneak peek, we're doing marinated meats soon, or we're getting into that way. We're very conscientious that pre-marinated meats can be very divisive. Something that someone loves can be something that someone else really hates. So
I'm not a big fan.
but I think that's because you're,
Like doing
pretty
it.
accomplished,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you can whip something up quickly. A lot of people out there, they want that convenience element. They don't want to have to think about it. And, these days, both mum, dad work, got kids. I just want something quick, healthy that they can do very, 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 very quickly.
How do you battle with the idea of people wanting meat right now? Like, is that something that is that a big challenge to figure out? How to get to them now? Because I still think I'm one of those consumers that we're so used to the idea of Prime and Deliveroo's and just within 30 minutes and it's too long, doesn't it sometimes? So how do you battle with that? And because that's a problem that exists right now, and probably the more the bigger you get, inshallah, the more you offer, people are going to want more of it quicker.
Yeah. So we have at the moment all of our deliveries are 2-day. We're launching next day soon, but we realize people want things now. And
Is it more operational challenge or logistic?
both, because we serve customers anywhere in the UK. So 2-day and next day delivery, we can get to them next day. But I can't get to you in 30 minutes if you're in Scotland.
Yeah.
So that's tricky. So then, and something that was really interesting, going to Halal Food Festival recently, which
Yes,
you
we
did
talked
smashed,
about
by the way.
Oh, thank you so much, man. And your voice note was beautiful, man. I'm sorry I read it so late. It was such a
No, it's fine. It's probably one of those days where you have like a million messages.
It's good you already before you just spoke to me now, and I have to be like, oh man, I haven't seen it.
No, but you did really well, man.
Yeah,
I
thank
can't
you.
believe that was your first time.
Oh man, thank you. Nah, I had a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm shame I didn't get to catch you. I walked past your stand. I was with some people there. They were saying hello, but I was trying to look out for you. I was like, Jabraan's
I was probably
got me.
off somewhere.
No, but you
yeah.
know what's funny? Is like then I started thinking I didn't remember your face or something because I was
Yeah.
like, everyone was smiling, and I was like, is one of these Jabraan? And I'm getting it all wrong. Like, what's going on? And there's so many people, there's so much going on, and people being served.
Yeah.
But man, your fridge constantly looked like it needed restocking because people just coming just grabbing the stuff like
Exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
The steaks were going.
Yeah, it was chaos, and that's one of the big learnings that we had from Halal Food Festival was that we can't just be online only. When people can see, feel, touch, look at the products, I think specifically our meats as well, because a lot of them are so novel. Ribeye steaks and tomahawk steaks and corn-fed chicken, like. You cook a lot, so you're aware of these things. But I think a lot of Muslims out there, they've got no idea.
It feels like that American aisle in a food store when you go there, and it's stuff that you always see but can never quite have.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
in Saffron Alley, I think it's a bit like that with halal meat. It's like you see this stuff and you always hear about tomahawk, especially beef cuts, man. Like everyone watches, programs of how to make a great smash burger.
Yeah.
And they can't get the cuts because, honestly, I've had trouble with this going to regular meat shops, picking my cuts, asking them to mince it for me and mix it, and they're so confused by it because people don't ask it. So like, I want to get some sirloin cut. Then they're obviously asking questions like, do you want it minced once or twice? And I didn't know the answer, So then I'm experimenting through that. So, just to have pre-made, smash burger balls that you guys do and cuts of meat that are ready, it's so hard to find. So 100% when people see it, they're gonna go crazy for it.
Exactly. So I think we want to get out there and have some outlets. Haven't figured out the exact way or mechanism we're going to do that, but that's definitely in the pipeline. And I think that's going to make a massive transformation to the business.
Just finding ways of getting close to the consumer, man.
Yeah,
It's something
yeah,
that everyone has to always think about.
Yeah.
And when especially sometimes you have a product that really needs marketing and really needs to, or you're creating a new market and you've got to sell people on the idea, almost create the problem to then solve it.
Yeah.
But it's so special when you have a business that the problem already exists, and then you're layering it up with a great solution you know. And I think now people, you know, want beautiful brands. They want to see things presented well. They want to feel like the company they're dealing with, you know, is up to standard with the greatest companies in the world, period. You know, not just the best in the Muslim space or best in the UK. You know, when it comes to delivery, they are going to compare you with Amazon, no matter whether you're a startup or not, you know. And it's just because it's the way the consumer's behavior is now. And so even when we were speaking about before, like I know you mentioned in terms of your own upbringing, and you seem like a guy who's quite connected to your own emotions and thinking. Does that inform the way you run your business and thinking about consumers? Do you feel you're very like kind of customer experience centric yourself?
100%, yeah. We also have other businesses that we run, which alhamdulillah, a little bit bigger than Saffron Alley. One of them's a bookstore. It's called awesomebooks.com. We ship books around the world to customers around the world. And so a really big customer experience kind of learning came from that company. So we already had idea and knowledge and experience of how to deal with customers and how you should look after them, how they should be prioritized. And I think it's even more the case with meat, because if a book gets lost in the post, it's not the end of the world. But if there's a problem with your food, you've got no food to eat for the next couple of days, and people are planning for occasions and things like that. So customer always comes first, even if it's to our detriment, even if we have to like lose money to take care of someone. That is always the priority, because at the end of the day, you know, we thrive and live through people buying our products, and they need to be happy. If they're not happy, then, you know, what's the point of your business? So we are very, very customer centric, it's built into every layer, every facet of Saffron Alley. The website is just going through a massive revamp. And I hate website development. It's so tedious. We just did one about we just did we just did it about 7 months ago, 8 months ago, and then, you know, we just realized, okay, it's good what we did, but it's not we're not leading the pack. So, and we're comparing ourselves with non-halal companies. So we're like,
man, it's so important.
Why have these guys got all this information there and we don't? Like, it's on us to kind of fix that and sort it out. So we're going through that design process as well at the moment. Customer service is constantly being looked at, and we're trying to find ways that we can you know, serve customers better, faster response times, etc. So
yeah, man, I think that what you're leading on there is excellent, man. The look, as soon as you're what was it, something some quote to do with, like, you know, being in a point of kind of stasis is basically like kind of death almost. Just being like, look, you know what, we're okay, we're satisfied. It's great to be in a place of constant reinvention, and they say twice experiment, twice innovation. So, you know, being able to, you know, constantly evolve and not be satisfied. Be like, our platform can be better. We need to inform people more, and then being willing to go for it. So of course, you know, things like, you know, of course, web development is it can be so tedious and so challenging, especially when there's so many layers to it. But with what you're doing, it's so tech centric. You know, people are going to use your platform on the device. I'm sure you're seeing people skew very heavily towards mobile as well, right? So, you know, they're now figuring out, I think, and as we've been speaking about as well, more creative ways that you can get your brand out, you know, get close to the consumer. And I think really for a company like yours, it's all about the kind of mental affiliation, the mental association that people make, and certainly with quality and customer experience, and, you know, then the food they then taste, and that's how I connect anyway. It's literally as basic as pepperoni pizza equals Saffron Alley. You know, that's how consumer does it, works things out in their mind. And then of course, when, you know, in your competitive position where people can't get that because it's created by artisans in, you know, Italy, it's amazing, man. So I just think more and more people need to hear about it and get out there and use it, man. So now with your structure, you're saying your siblings, are you guys all doing the same stuff together, or everyone doing different things?
So we all kind of run our own businesses, but I'd say, well, they've been in business longer than I have, so I am able to draw on their wisdom and experience. So
what's the greatest advice you got from one of your siblings?
I think, that's a tough one.
Or something.
Yeah. So I think the main thing was just focus. I think as a startup and as the you know, managing director, you want to put out all the fires, solve all the problems, and fix everything, but there's just not enough time, and there's not enough resources. So just really focus, figure out what's important, and just be like laser focused on fixing that problem and getting that, because sometimes you just have to let things certain things just be stagnant for you to really be able to focus on one problem and be able to fix certain problems.
You got children?
No.
No, yeah. So you're able to really, use that focus in a way. That,
Yeah.
with family
Alhamdulillah,
life
I've
and
got a bit
balance
more
out.
free time at the moment. So yeah.
And then how close are you with your siblings in terms of like when you guys are kind of connecting over these things and helping each other develop and grow? Is it very kind of close bond?
Yeah, really close. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like no holds barred.
Yeah. Like they'll tell you if the corn-fed chicken wasn't that good this time round.
No, exactly. Or it's like, you know what, you need to pull your socks up. This should
the
be
chicken
better.
did not eat enough corn.
Yeah, literally. Or it just might be like, about they might just be helping with day-to-day management. It's like, you need to be doing this better, you need to be doing that better, which is really, really helpful. Really helpful
Just
to
having
hear.
extra sensors on, isn't it? People
Yeah.
just kind of, and you got to think it's pure as family, man. They're gonna
Exactly.
whether it's good or bad, it's for the best in your best interest as well.
Exactly.
Especially you being the younger one as well. They're gonna be
Yeah.
even more kind of attentive and want to make sure that you develop in that area. Oh man, that's amazing, man. And what do you think? Generally in terms of like the way other products out in the world and other businesses, what kind of businesses or platforms do you see that you aspire to, that you take inspiration from?
I think it's unfortunately in the kind of Muslim area, there aren't any really big brands that come to my mind, and I think that's what our community and our people are missing, is being able to identify with something. I think in the UK, our demographic, our kind of cultural identity is becoming stronger and stronger, but there aren't that many things that we can all get behind. I think like something like Freshly Grounded is great for a lot of Muslims, because the younger generation coming up, everyone can listen to this podcast, it's relevant to them, and I don't think there is that many Islamically or Muslim centric or focused companies or businesses out there. So that's what we're kind of aspiring to be a company that Muslims are proud of and that they want to identify themselves with. In terms of who we aspire to be, I think there's not really any in the halal meat realm. There are some in the non-halal meat realm. We've seen how they present themselves, what their business models are like, how they communicate to their customers. Great company called like Pharmason.
I think you sent me their website.
Yeah, I mean, just check out their website. It's beautiful.
Good.
And the level of detail and the level of product knowledge they have. And
quite a bit of heritage there as well, isn't there?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like, customers that buy from a company like that, they know exactly what they're buying. And they're really into their meat and they're really, just aware of every single item in their order. They know exactly where it's come from. And that's kind of an aspiration we have. Like one day, we hope to have QR codes on a corn-fed chicken, right? You scan the QR code and it will tell you which farm the chicken's from, where it was slaughtered,
amazing,
how it was transported to you, where it was butchered, probably who butchered it, and then 20 recipes on how to cook it.
That's amazing.
So that's the kind of level of of knowledge and detail that we want to build in.
I just think it's such a land grab for consumers out there, man. Like it's really just getting your foot on the gas, and like saying you're focused on the right things and what's important, because otherwise you try and do everything. But certainly, man, like just thinking like, look, if every Muslim right now could pick up the Saffron Alley, app, website, and get that level of information, and you connect with different partners to get recipes. 'Cause there's so many people out there who cook amazing food and have recipes. So connecting with people like that. There's such a great networking built out there, and it's so beneficial on both sides. Because the infrastructure you got in the center, people are just making food and putting it out don't have access to, and then certainly you're on the other side in terms of content. No matter how much time and resource you put into it, there's the people out there doing it so much quicker anyway. You might as well lean into that.
Yeah.
So there's such a great synergy there, and that's where I think the brand really, makes its mark as well. Man, it's super exciting, And what now are you kind of focusing on for this next kind of a period after Halal Food Festival? Now you did that, you took some learnings from that. And then have you tried to shift now your focus slightly based on what you learned that day and seeing the way people were kind of more face to face to your product? Are you thinking about being more physical now? Is that something you're taking a stance on?
Not to rush you, but
Sorry.
just to keep on time, we've got about 3 minutes.
That's fine.
Cool. Yeah, I think we need to be in people's faces. I mean, people first and foremost want to educate people about how meat production is done, and I think through that, people will be quite concerned, possibly even horrified at some of the things that happen, especially with hormones and antibiotics and that kind of thing.
Yeah, hormones are a whole other chapter, man. Wow.
So and then the most effective way of doing that is in person. Even on the phone is difficult. Customer service inquiries, simple questions like, why is your meat different? It's like, well, antibiotic free, hormone free, but people switch off. On the phone, you can speak to someone about these things for about 20 seconds and then they're gone. They're lost.
So how do you deal with that? Because people, I don't know, that leans more towards you doing things more face to face.
Yeah.
Is it because that you can't really get them to experience the product? Like, it's all just kind of hearsay, isn't it? It's you're just saying your marketing side of things, like, and probably people are speaking to by telling them what they need to tell them. But from a consumer point of view, until you taste it, you don't know. Until you can touch it and see it, you can't. And over the phone, you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a challenge. Even in person, people's attention kind of flicks off. So it's about us refining the message in person to just package it into very short, sharp, concise sentences that really convey what it is that we want to convey without being misleading, being truthful. And then online, I think just a lot more media out there, social media content, Instagram, inshallah, will do better with YouTube and things like that as well.
But what you were speaking about earlier, in terms of us not having access to this type of food normally, you can really lean on that too, man, because there's all the Michelin star restaurants that are even out there in London, a whole load of them aren't halal, and some of them you have to request halal, and it's still not the same. So I think it's literally, once people just taste the level quality of food you have, it makes a difference, man, because you just know that corn-fed chicken that we had, you just knew straight away. You just know the way it's cooked, even down to the way the skin is. Like, I didn't realize, because I obviously watch a lot of cooking, and especially these great chefs make food, and even sometimes when they're cooking a chicken in 3 different ways, right? For example, they'll blanch it, then they might sear it in a pan, and they might put it in the oven, and then you're seeing the way the skin even develops and the color on it and the crispness. And then when I would do it, it wouldn't be the same, because I'm like, in the first process, the skin's almost like kind of just disintegrated. But then I did that. I actually cooked a meal. It was I can't remember which chef it was who showed. It was his French style of cooking. It was like basically a leg of chicken. It was cooked in 3 parts. And with your chicken, the skin stayed on. It was crispy. Even with the sauce on top of it, it didn't wilt away. And you notice that, and in the taste, you notice it, because it's very rare to get it right that way, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things. Skin is healthy chickens have healthy skin. It's nice and thick. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't disintegrate. It keeps its position. It doesn't shrink.
And if you can fry it, the skin itself, cut it up, that can be a kind of a crispy garnish.
Exactly.
There's so much more you can do with the meat. You know what I mean? And so it's worth that extra even bit of money or waiting an extra day or two, because the quality of food that comes out for it is second to none, man. So big credit to you guys, man. Look, I'm so excited that you came on here and for everyone to listen to this, because got mad respect from you. We connected so organically as well. I honestly started Saffron Alley just being a regular customer. I heard about them, went on there, ordered stuff, they sent it to me, it was amazing, and then through that, your team was so friendly. And then just after that, Jabraan and I connected, and the whole Freshly Grounded family. So you feel like a part of a family, and it's so nice to be connected with you, man. And I hope that you guys continue this journey and solving it, and wherever we can be of assistance, we're happy to, because I just think it's important, man. And we love your food, and we know that everyone out there needs to get on saffronalley.com right now. That's Ali, ALLEY, and give the food a shout, man. Do you want to say anything last before we go?
No, just if you want to hear more about us or see more about us, head to saffronalley.com. Loads of information on the About Us page, FAQs page. If you've got any questions about anything, send us an email. All contact details are on there. And then just if you want cooking tips or anything like that, just follow our socials. But other than that, thank you to the Freshly Grounded team for having me on. It's been a blast, and inshallah it's the start of many more things to come.
Inshallah. Thanks so much. Thank you guys for listening. This is episode 251 of Freshly Grounded.